Welcome back to another segment of the series The Morality of the Godless. In this video I shall be discussing some of the sociological and psychological reasons behind the creation and existence of society. I have already mentioned the system through which we gain our higher moral values from society. But what are the sociological and psychological reasons for this? To understand more, we must look at the ways in which social interaction takes place. If we go back to some of our earliest ancestors, they had to worry about many different issues that we today in the Western world do not. Such problems as predation, starvation, disease would decimate the human population if they had not evolved as social creatures. We exist in a world which we cannot rely on strength, speed, or any other exterior physical adaptation to deal with these problems. Instead, we took a different route. Higher ability to communicate, and in time the ability to learn how to coordinate information and allocate power and resources. Though early societies were unlikely to resemble our ideas on what society is, they did serve several important functions. One immediate purpose was that society would serve as a means of protection. Both monkeys and apes show clear understanding that there is clear safety in larger numbers, and it's unlikely that our ancestors would have been much different. The utilization of the elderly and those seen as less capable for hunting to look after the children and tend to early domestic matters such as the gathering of water, collection of wild crops and the gathering of materials used for fuel as fire, would free the most skilled to hunt, therefore offering an extra food source, as well as an important source of protein necessary for neurological growth. The ability to communicate, as well as to pass down information generation to generation, a technique seen in few apes, and then even less of other mammal species to a far more restricted extent, means herbal remedies which help fight infections and diseases can be passed down through the generations. This handing down of knowledge, almost like a type of informative evolution in which the most useful information is ensured to continue, builds into areas of protection and food security as well. The discovery of agriculture would allow populations to then have a higher chance of survival than those who still remained entirely hunter-gatherers. The creation of flint, bronze and finally iron tools and weapons would allow human populations to progress past the majority of predation, and even allow him to begin to shape the environment around him to a greater extent than previously possible. There were also new problems which arose from this progression, however. Previously, the population had remained reasonably restricted, possibly only consisting of several family groups living in harmony. Now, with less concern towards predation and time freed from the move from hunter-gathering to agriculture, interaction between these isolated groups was inevitable. Whilst it is true that these early wars, spanning from the beginning of the Iron Age to the beginning of the formation of the first empires, much of the fighting would consist of raiding parties and small territorial disputes. However, as more time went on, alliances between houses would be formed, utilizing what would become a key asset in diplomatic decisions for the next millennium, daughters as bargaining tools. However, one of the key aspects of how society had been set up is that it was made to adapt, changing to situations to preserve itself. Society has changed drastically over the past couple hundred years, removing itself from the old situations with a wider dispersal of the population, and introducing new ones with the denser population, with industrialization which then led on to urbanization. Here, people had to learn how to cope with interacting with one another to an even greater extent. One way in which people have got around this daily interaction is to form social releases. Just as swear words are negative and stigmatized by human creation within society, certain actions have become valued. Just the same as a certain word can have an effect releasing certain chemicals within the brain when they are heard, these actions do the opposite. As humans, certain facial features and aspects of body language have been connected to the mind, so that when a person smiles, as well as them releasing endorphins within their own mind, we as social animals pick up on this and release our own endorphins as a sort of personal reward. This is repeated due to operant conditioning in which a person changes their behavior in order to receive such a reward. This social release has been continued to be reinforced. One reason is that when a person actively selects a partner, they are far more likely to select one that smiles a lot, as they then gain the endorphins. This means that people with a nice smile are seen as good mating prospects, putting them in highest demand and therefore successfully reproducing those with that trait. This theory also goes on to explain how and why society stigmatizes those with bad manners, in an attempt to rid itself of that behavior. The simplest explanation of this is when a person opens a door for one another, and they barge through without stopping or using the emphatic communication, "thank you," successfully denying a person their endorphin boost. This will leave them angry and agitated. A denser population has also led to the increase in human rights movements, from the rights of workers to the rights of women, ethnic minorities, and people of different sexualities. As society progresses further, it seeks to progressively improve this interaction between all groups, due to the simple principle that has echoed through each stage that society has gone through: cooperation. This is the end of this segment of the Morality of the Godless. Please be sure to check out the other videos in this series. This is Essence of Thought. Out.